Waking up some mornings, I felt like I was wearing a straitjacket that was bolted down to the mattress. Whenever I thought of the smallest tasks, it felt like my mind was trying to sprint through knee-deep mud. The longer I tried to think, the mud got deeper, and I began to feel it seeping into my lungs until I couldn't breathe. Most days, I stopped thinking altogether. Everything I saw, smelled, and heard felt different. My senses felt blurred. I felt like I was watching everything from a distance. I felt isolated. I lived this every day for about 9 months, right after the incident. I learned how to act normal. Then one day in late January, it was like I just woke up. I was far from content, but I was awake. I was back in my own skin, brought back to life. I don't know what triggered it or the slightest clue where it came from, but there I was, back from a 9-month sleep. And I was pissed. I had a friend who lived in the big city, and we had made plans to go to a show months prior. The plan was to hang out during the day and to see the show in the evening, then come home early. But that's not exactly how it played out. We had so much fun at the show. When it was over, my friend wanted to go meet one of our old high school friends downtown, and she suggested that since it would be a short visit, I should come with her. And I said okay, on the condition that we wouldn't stay very long. We hopped on a bus and waited around downtown for our old high school friend until she texted us that she wouldn't be coming anymore. I wanted to go back to the apartment. My friend didn't want to go back, and I didn't feel safe going on a bus by myself at night, so we ended up at our old usual spot. I remember looking at the clock in the bathroom there after a while, and it was 12:30 a.m., and this was about the time I wanted to leave. So we went back to where we stored our coats, and we got stopped by 2 men along the way. There were 2 of them, him and a blonde one. My friend started talking to the blonde one, and I got stuck in a conversation with the one with brown hair. He swore he recognized me, and he asked where I was from. I gave him a very broad answer. I didn't ask, but he said he owned a clothing company, and it seemed friendly, not flirty. He said, "Come here," and motioned for me to come to the bar with him. It looked like he was about to introduce me to someone. He had skipped past the entire line and went straight to the bartender. He didn't ask if I wanted a drink. He just looked at me innocently and said, "What do you want?" I ordered a vodka soda for my friend since I was done drinking for the night. I then turned around to see if she was still in sight, and she was still in the corner with the blonde one. When I turned back around, a vodka soda was on its way into my hand. I don't remember anything else past that. It's as if time just evaporated. The rest of my time in the bar is blank. The next thing I remember, we are standing outside, and I'm looking around for my friend. I can't see her at all at first, and then all of a sudden she's right in front of me. The blonde one's there too. I try to say, "Call a taxi, we're leaving." I didn't know if the words were actually coming out of my mouth. It felt like they were, but no one was listening to me. No one responded to me, as if they'd heard nothing at all. He asked if we wanted to take his taxi back to his place with him to smoke weed. I heard him clearly, and I tried to say, "No, we need to leave." Everything goes blank again after that. I didn't hear my friend's response at the time. I now know that she decided that we were going. The next thing I remember, we're walking into his apartment. I could see out the window. We were pretty high up in a tall building. I'm aware at this point that I'm on drugs and I didn't take them myself. When I got home, I walked in the door and started sobbing immediately. I sobbed until I was able to choke out what happened. My husband just listened and held me until I calmed down. He asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him I had to go to the hospital. He came with me and sat in for the entire thing, even when the nurses had to do invasive procedures, DNA swabs, inspections, blood work, gave me a lot of pills, and asked questions about the incident that probably made him scream inside. The weeks following, I spent a lot of time hiding in my room alone. I often looked at myself in the mirror, trying to find myself in a face I no longer recognized and a body that didn't feel like mine. I still felt like I was floating above everything, watching everything play out below me like I did in his apartment. Some moments I spent in silence, pretending not to be alive. Some moments I spent panicking that my husband was going to leave me, or that I was going to get AIDS and somehow be pregnant with his child. I began seeking help only 2.5 weeks after I was assaulted. It did not feel like the right time. I did not wait until I felt ready. I remember getting up one day and asking myself if I wanted to go to the police at all. I decided that I should, while I was still emotionally numb and in shock. I called a lady from a brochure given to me at the hospital and told her that I didn't want to go to the city to make my statement because the police station is right near the place where I was raped. The lady on the phone said that I could go to my local police station and they would bring a constable from the city to facilitate the interview so that I didn't have to go there. I went to the police station, the local one, the same day. I walked inside. I told them I was there to report a sexual assault. Spitting those words out felt like fire in my mouth, and it choked me every time I coughed it out. The lady asked when and where it took place, and I told her it was in the city. She then said that she couldn't take my statement, and I would have to go to the city police to do that. She gave me their business card and said goodbye. I was stunned. I thought the police don't care. They don't see me. They don't want to help. They don't see that I can't go to the city. Over the course of 5 months, it felt like I went everywhere. It felt like I was telling every stranger in town that I was a rape victim. Various visits and calls to women's clinics, helplines, victim services, and counselors left me more hurt than when I started. Each one denied me, gave me long wait lists, dismissed me after I choked out my story to them. If I were to tell you what happened at each of these events, it would feel long, repetitive, and exhausting, and that's because it was. 3 weeks after the incident, my husband and I drove to the city. I shook and I dry heaved the entire way. The male constable started by asking me why it took so long to come in. I explained to him the best that I could, knowing he wouldn't understand. He then asked me to tell every detail of my story in completeness as I remember it, starting from the beginning. My body told me not to speak, but I fought it. As my husband drove me home later, I realized that the constable hadn't given me my police file number, which I needed in order to gain access to the different victim services. I emailed him immediately as we were still in the car driving home. It took him over a month to respond to me, which delayed my access to services. Later that night, I had to get x-rays done at the hospital to check if my back was okay. It didn't feel okay. Back in July, I signed a waiver to release my rape kit to police forensics. He originally told me that the results would take a week, and that upon receiving them, he would go directly to Crown Counsel to present my case. I followed up with him 3 times over the next 7 months. The first 2 times, he said the request was still pending. The third time was in January, and at that point, he said that the request for my rape kit to the police forensics back in the summer hadn't gone through at all. This process took a massive toll on my mental health. I was in a constant state of waiting, of panic. I was ready to go into battle at any given moment because once my results were in, then my case would be brought to Crown Counsel and then they would decide if we were going to court or not. This was one of the main reasons why I was tense all the time, creating my back pain. I couldn't be home alone for months. My family did what they could, but I had so many hours to myself. I wanted to lock the doors and close the blinds so that no one could see me or come in, but then I couldn't look out to see if anyone was coming or trying to spy on me. I felt stuck. A survivor who's been contained or taken somewhere against his or her will does not want to feel trapped anywhere. My paranoia went wild. I felt hunted. I was always on the watch for him or his friends trying to kill me or capture me. I stopped sleeping. I was in a permanent fight or flight mode. I felt depressed from suppressing so many emotions. My body became inflamed like it never had before. I felt it, but I also saw it in my acne, my rashes, and bloating. The doctor said it was due to extreme stress. I got used to the feeling that I was choking. I woke up choking. I choked when I spoke, when I tried to eat, when I drove, while I exercised, even when I slept. My back remained in brutal pain, even though it had been 3 months since the incident. Apparently, the tiny little injury that I had was being made worse and tighter due to inflammation and stress. It wasn't a big deal, but it felt like one. Because every time I felt my back ache, in my mind it was his hands pushing into my spine as he pinned me down. I remember being at a family gathering and someone was talking to me. They had no clue that in my mind that night was just playing on repeat. I felt the choking, I felt the fear, I felt that I was gonna die and the determination to get out alive. It was like I was back in that moment. I didn't hear her at all. I felt numb and distant. Then one day in Toronto, on holiday with my husband, I woke up in my own skin. It was like I had come up for air after 9 months underwater. And that's when it all started.